Rain lashed against the cracked diner windows as Clara wiped the counter, her reflection blurred by water and exhaustion. The for sale signs outside had been there for weeks now, mocking her every morning. She'd inherited this little diner from her late mother, and it was all she had left. But the city had changed. Big developers were buying every block, turning dreams into condos. And now, one of them had come for hers. A black car pulled up, sleek and silent, its tires hissing against wet pavement. A man stepped out. Expensive suit, perfect posture, the kind of confidence money breeds. He didn't belong here, and that made everyone in the diner stop and stare. Clara met his eyes through the glass, cold, unreadable, calculating. The bell above the door chimed as he walked in, bringing the storm with him. He brushed rain off his coat, scanning the room like a predator in familiar territory. "Miss Thompson?" he asked, voice calm but sharp. "I'm Ethan Cole. I represent the firm that owns this block. I believe you received our offer." Clara's jaw tightened. "I received it. I refused it." Ethan smiled politely, but there was steel beneath his charm. "I admire loyalty," he said, glancing around at the peeling wallpaper. "But sentiment doesn't pay bills. You can't hold out forever." Clara crossed her arms. "Watch me." The room went silent. The air was heavy, charged. For a moment, Ethan looked at her, really looked, and something flickered in his eyes. But it vanished as quickly as it came. He reached into his briefcase and placed a crisp white paper on the counter. "Then I'm afraid this is your eviction notice," he said, voice smooth as glass. Clara stared at the words as rain hammered harder against the windows. Ethan adjusted his cufflinks, turning to leave. "You have 30 days. When the door closed behind him, Clara's knees almost gave out. 30 days to lose everything her mother ever built. Clara didn't sleep that night. She sat in the diner booth by the window, watching the city lights flicker in the puddles outside. The eviction notice lay on the table, mocking her. 30 days. It sounded final, like a countdown to the death of everything her mother had sacrificed for. But Clara had inherited more than a diner. She'd inherited her mother's stubbornness. "If they want to fight," she muttered, "they'll get one." The next morning, she went to City Hall, clutching her papers in a worn folder. The receptionist barely looked up. "Property dispute?" she asked lazily. "Join the club." Clara's voice shook. "My name is Clara Thompson. The diner at East Willow and Grant is mine." The woman sighed. "Not anymore. Honey, Cole Industries owns that entire block." Clara frowned. "That's impossible. I never sold." The receptionist shrugged. "Then someone did it for you." Anger boiled beneath Clara's calm. She walked out into the sunlight, the eviction notice crumpled in her fist. Something didn't add up. Her mother had paid off the property years ago. The deed was in their family name. How can anyone take it? She stopped by the local records office, demanding a copy of her deed. The clerk handed her a file, dust-covered and faded. "Here it is," he said. "But there's something strange." Inside, the document looked normal, until she noticed a second signature. Her mother's name was there, but beneath it, another one had been added in different ink. "Ethan Cole." Her blood ran cold. "That's impossible," she whispered. "How did his name get here?" The clerk leaned closer. "Forgery, maybe? Or maybe someone bought the rights without you knowing." Clara's mind spun. "He didn't just buy my land. He stole it." That night, she stood alone in the dark diner, staring at the eviction notice taped to the door. Her mother's picture hung on the wall beside it, smiling softly. "You always said this place was our home," Clara whispered. "I won't let him take it." She turned off the lights, but before leaving, she added one more note beneath the notice. "See you in court, Mr. Cole." 2 days later, Clara walked into the glass fortress that was Cole Industries. The lobby gleamed with marble floors and the smell of money. She felt small in her faded jacket and worn boots, but she walked with purpose. The receptionist blinked at her. "Do you have an appointment?" "Tell Ethan Cole," Clara said coldly, "that the woman he's evicting is here." Heads turned. The guard shifted uncomfortably. Minutes later, Ethan appeared, crisp, composed, and visibly annoyed. Miss Thompson, he said, adjusting his tie. This isn't the place for... You forged my mother's signature, she snapped. You stole our property. His expression didn't change, but the flicker in his eyes gave him away. That's a serious accusation, he said. Do you have proof? She held up the deed, slapping it onto the front desk. You signed this. The ink isn't even the same. And my mother was dead when this signature was dated. The silence that followed was heavier than any storm. He glanced at the papers, jaw tightening. You don't understand how business works, he said coldly. No one does things cleanly in real estate. That's not business, Clara shot back. That's theft. She stepped closer. You think because I'm just a waitress, I won't fight you? You're wrong. Ethan sighed, frustration cracking through his mask. You're wasting your time. The courts are already on my side. Then I'll change that, she said, voice trembling but fierce. Security started to move in, but Ethan held up his hand. Let her go, he said softly. She's not worth the trouble. Clara turned toward him, eyes blazing. You'll remember those words when this place starts to crumble. As she walked out, she didn't see his face darken. Not with anger, but with something that looked almost like regret. He'd spent years fighting people like her, but no one had ever stood their ground like this before. Back in his office, Ethan stared at the deed she'd left on the desk. He zoomed in on the scan document on his screen and froze. The secondary authorization signature wasn't his. It was someone else's. Someone from his own legal department. For the first time, Ethan realized he might not be the villain of this story. At least, not the only one. Ethan didn't sleep that night either. The image of Clara's furious eyes haunted him like a mirror he didn't want to face. At 3 a.m., he sat in his dark penthouse office, scrolling through legal archives, property transfers, and contract scans. Something about the diner's land didn't make sense. It wasn't just a small lot. It was the only piece of property in the district still listed under a legacy deed. That meant whoever controlled it could block the company's entire redevelopment project. He called his head of legal, Morgan, into the office early. You authorized the East Willow acquisition? Ethan asked, tone deceptively calm. Morgan shifted uneasily. Yes, but everything was done by the book. Ethan leaned forward, eyes cold, then explained why Clara Thompson's mother signed a document 5 months after her death. The color drained from Morgan's face. That's impossible, he stammered. Then check it, Ethan snapped. Now. While Morgan left to dig, Ethan stared out the window, rain streaking down the glass. His company had made him rich, powerful, untouchable, but was built on greed, manipulation, and shortcuts. He'd looked the other way more than once. But this was different. It wasn't just fraud, it was personal. He thought of Clara's trembling voice, the way she'd said, You stole our home. Maybe she was right. Maybe he wasn't the kind of man he thought he was. By the next afternoon, Morgan returned, hands shaking. You were right, he whispered. The forged signature came from inside our acquisitions team. They used your name to finalize the file. Ethan's expression hardened. Who? Morgan hesitated. Nathan Greer. Ethan froze. Nathan was his second in command, the man he'd trusted with everything. He's been flipping properties illegally for months, Morgan continued. The Thompson diner was part of a larger scheme. Ethan sank back in his chair, fury and guilt twisting together. He'd built his empire on loyalty, and now his own people had used his name to destroy innocent lives. If this gets out, Morgan said quietly, the press will crucify you. Ethan stood, grabbing his coat. Let them, he said. I'm done protecting thieves. He paused at the door. And Morgan, find Clara Thompson. She deserves to know the truth from me. Clara was closing the diner when she heard the sound of tires on wet asphalt. The same black car pulled up again, headlights cutting through the drizzle. She braced herself. Ethan Cole stepped out, no umbrella this time, rain soaking his hair and suit. He didn't look like the confident man from before. He looked human. Miss Thompson, he said softly, I need to talk to you. She folded her arms. You've done enough talking. He stepped inside, the bell chiming faintly. The diner was dim, only the neon sign flickering outside. "You were right," he said, his voice steady but low. "About everything. The deed, the signature, it was forged. Someone in my company used my name." Clara stared, her expression unreadable. "And you expect me to believe that?" Ethan met her gaze. "No, but I expect you to see that I'm here because I care about the truth." Clara looked down at her hands, calloused from years of work. "The truth," she said bitterly. "The truth is that men like you destroy lives and call it business." Ethan took a breath. "You're right. I've spent years convincing myself it was just numbers on paper. But it's not. It's people, families, places like this." His voice cracked slightly. "I let greed blind me, Clara. And if I can't fix what happened here, then I'll make sure the people responsible pay." For a long moment, neither spoke. Only the rain filled the silence, tapping against the glass like a heartbeat. Clara studied him, the exhaustion in his eyes, the sincerity he seemed almost afraid to show. "Why tell me this now?" she finally asked. Ethan exhaled. "Because you deserve to hear it before the headlines twist it. And because I owe your mother that much." Clara froze. "You knew my mother?" He nodded slowly. "A long time ago. She helped me when no one else would." That revelation hit like thunder. Clara felt the air shift around her. You knew her?" she whispered. Ethan looked away, guilt flickering across his face. "She saved me once, and I repaid her by letting the world take her home." His voice broke on the last word. "I can't undo the past, Clara, but I can make sure it doesn't destroy you too." Clara leaned back against the counter, her mind spinning. The idea of teaming up with a man who had nearly ruined her made her skin crawl. Yet there was something in Ethan's voice, a tremor that didn't sound like manipulation, but regret. "So what?" she asked. "You show up here drenched in guilt, and suddenly we're partners?" Ethan shook his head. "Not partners. Just two people who've both been used by the same system." He looked at her with weary honesty. "But if we work together, we can stop it." She laughed bitterly. "You're asking a waitress to take down a real estate empire?" Ethan's lips curved into the faintest smile. "You're not just a waitress. You're the only person with a legitimate claim to that land, and the only one who hasn't given up." He pulled out a flash drive, set it on the counter. "This is everything. Every transaction, every forged signature, every name involved. But if we expose it, they'll come after us both." Clara stared at the tiny drive like it was a weapon. "Why should I trust you?" she asked. Ethan hesitated. "Because I'm about to lose everything, too. The moment I turn this in, my company will collapse. My name, my reputation, gone." He met her gaze steadily. "But maybe that's what it takes to make things right." His voice softened. "Your mother believed in second chances. I'm asking you to give me one." The room was silent except for the ticking clock and the low hum of the refrigerator. Clara's heart pounded. Her mother had always said that forgiveness wasn't about weakness. It was about freedom. Finally, she nodded. "Fine," she said quietly. "We do it my way." Ethan blinked, almost surprised. "Your way?" "Yeah," she said, slipping the flash drive into her pocket. "We don't burn them down. We expose them where everyone can see." A slow smile spread across Ethan's face. "Then I guess we're partners after all." "Don't push it," Clara muttered, turning away. But as she did, she caught a glimpse of his reflection in the diner window. Not the arrogant businessman who had walked in weeks ago, but a man stripped bare of his armor. And for the first time, she didn't just see the enemy. She saw someone who, like her, had finally decided to fight back. 2 nights later, the diner was empty except for the hum of Clara's laptop and the soft clatter of rain outside. Ethan sat across from her, sleeves rolled up, staring at the files on the screen. Dozens of named shell companies and fake deeds appeared in neat columns, all tied to Nathan Greer, his former partner. "He's been laundering millions through fake property transfers," Ethan muttered, "and he used my signature to cover his tracks." Clara crossed her arms. "And my home was just another casualty." Ethan nodded grimly. "He didn't just want your diner, Clara. He wanted control of the entire block. The zoning laws there prevent large-scale demolition unless every owner agrees. That means you, or rather, your signature, was a final piece. Clara's eyes widened. So, my mother's land was a key? Exactly, Ethan said. That's why he forged it. Once he had that, he could bulldoze everything. She stared at the screen, fury and disbelief tightening her chest. The plan was simple, at least on paper. Ethan would leak the internal records anonymously, while Clara filed a public claim to the press and local council. If they acted together, the company wouldn't have time to suppress both sides. But one mistake could expose them both. Are you sure you want to do this? Ethan asked quietly. Clara looked at him sharply. I didn't start this fight, but I'm damn sure we'll finish it. For hours, they worked in silence, printing documents, cross-checking emails, building a digital trail that couldn't be erased. Somewhere between exhaustion and adrenaline, the walls between them began to crumble. Ethan caught himself glancing at her, at the determination in her eyes, the fire that reminded him of her mother. You look just like her, he murmured once without thinking. Clara froze. Like who? He hesitated, then whispered, Your mother, Evelyn. Clara's breath caught. You said you knew her, she said slowly. But how? Ethan's gaze dropped to the table. We were young. She believed in helping people no one else would touch, including me. I was broke, desperate, and she gave me my first job, my first chance. His voice broke. I left to chase money, and I never thanked her. Clara stared at him, speechless, her mind reeling. In that moment, she realized this battle wasn't just about land or money. It was about redemption. It happened just after midnight. Clara was locking the diner when a black SUV rolled slowly past the corner, its tinted windows glinting under the streetlight. Her stomach twisted. Something felt off. Ethan was inside, finishing one last call, when his phone buzzed, an encrypted message from his assistant. They know. His blood ran cold. He rushed outside, scanning the dark street. Clara, he said, voice urgent. We've been compromised. Within minutes, headlights flooded the block. Two men stepped out, one of them Nathan Greer. He wasn't hiding anymore. I should have known you'd grow a conscience, Ethan, he sneered, rain dripping from his slick hair. But dragging this little waitress into it, that's low even for you. Ethan stepped forward, shielding Clara. It's over, Nathan. The files are already copied and scheduled for release. Nathan's smirk didn't fade. Then you won't mind if I make sure they never go live. He snapped his fingers. Another man moved toward the diner, carrying a crowbar. Don't! Clara shouted, stepping in front of him. The man hesitated, just long enough for Ethan to lunge forward and knock him back. Chaos erupted. The rain turned to a downpour as glass shattered and alarms wailed. Get inside! Ethan shouted. Clara ducked behind the counter, heart pounding, grabbing her phone. Call the cops, he yelled. Now! When sirens finally echoed in the distance, Nathan cursed and retreated toward his SUV. This isn't over, Cole, he shouted. You think you can expose me? You're already finished. He sped off into the storm, tail lights fading into the wet darkness. Ethan leaned against the doorframe, soaked, his chest heaving. Clara ran to him. You're bleeding, she said. He shook his head. Just a scratch. But his expression told her he knew the fight had just begun. The police arrived minutes later, but Nathan's people had vanished. One officer took statements. Another examined the shattered glass. You should both leave town for a few days, he warned. Whoever did this won't stop. Clara looked at Ethan, trembling. Where do we go? He looked out into the rain, his jaw set. Somewhere safe, he said. Somewhere they won't think to look. He turned back to her, eyes steady. Your mother's cabin. It still exists, doesn't it? The cabin sat at the edge of the woods, quiet and forgotten. The last time Clara had been there was with her mother, years ago, back when life still felt simple. As Ethan parked the car, the forest swallowed them in silence, broken only by the sound of dripping rain and distant thunder. No one will find us here, Clara said softly. Ethan looked around, breathing in the cold, clean air. Your mother had good taste, he murmured. She didn't respond. Not yet. Inside, The air smelled of pine and memory. Dust-covered furniture. Faded photos on the walls. A single lamp flickering weakly. Clara lit the fireplace, while Ethan examined an old box of letters near the mantel. "You kept everything," he said quietly. She nodded, every piece of her I could. As the fire crackled, shadows danced across the room, revealing the ghosts neither of them were ready to face. They worked through the night, checking files, uploading evidence through a secured line Ethan had built. "Once this goes live," he said, "Nathan's empire collapses." Clara leaned closer, reading the names. "And what happens to you?" He paused. "I'll lose everything." She glanced at him, her tone softening. "Then why do it?" He looked into the flames. "Because maybe for once I can lose something for the right reason." Silence settled again, heavy but not hostile. Clara's eyes drifted to the letters Ethan had found earlier. One was addressed to him, Ethan Cole, written in her mother's handwriting. Her breath caught. "What is that?" she whispered. Ethan's fingers trembled slightly as he opened it. Inside, a single page, yellowed fragile. He read silently, his expression crumbling. She forgave me," he said, voice breaking, "even after I left." Clara swallowed hard, emotions tangling in her chest. "You were the one she wrote about," she whispered. "The man who broke her heart but changed her life." Ethan nodded, eyes glassy. "And now her daughter's the one reminding me what it means to have one." For the first time, Clara didn't see the millionaire who tried to evict her. She saw a man haunted by his choices, and trying, finally, to make them right. At sunrise, Clara sat by the window of the cabin, watching the mist drift between the trees. Her laptop screen glowed faintly in the dim light. The upload bar crawled forward, 87%, 93%, 100%. Ethan exhaled slowly. "It's done," he said. "Every file, every transaction, every name. The world knows now." Clara nodded, her pulse racing. "Then it's over." Ethan looked at her grimly. "No, Clara, it's just beginning." Within hours, the media storm hit. Headlines flooded every major outlet. Coal Industries under investigation for fraud. News anchors dissected every file, every name, every deal. The public outrage was immediate. Protesters filled the streets. Nathan Greer's photo was everywhere. Wanted for financial crimes, missing since last night. Clara watched from the small cabin TV, her heart torn between relief and fear. "We did it," she whispered. "We actually did it." Ethan didn't smile. He was staring at his phone. Hundreds of missed calls, messages from board members, lawyers, investors. "I'm finished," he murmured. "They'll strip everything from me." Clara turned to him, eyes soft. "Then maybe that's the price." He met her gaze. "And you? You've lost your home, your safety, maybe," she said, "but I've got my mother's name back." As night fell, headlights appeared through the trees. Ethan moved fast, grabbing the gun he'd hidden in the drawer. "They found us," he hissed. Clara froze. The car stopped outside, doors opening. Footsteps crunching on gravel. "Stay behind me," he said. The door creaked open, and a voice called out, "Ethan Cole, Clara Thompson, step outside with your hands up." It wasn't Nathan. It was law enforcement. 2 federal agents entered, badges glinting. "You're both under protective custody," one said. "Your leak triggered something big. Greer's people are running." Ethan exchanged a look with Clara, exhaustion and relief flooding through both of them. "So it worked?" she asked. The agent nodded. "It worked, but you've made powerful enemies." Ethan let out a long breath, glancing at Clara. "Then I guess we did something right." The following week was chaos. News vans lined the streets of downtown. Microphones and cameras pointed at the courthouse steps. Ethan Cole walked through the crowd in handcuffs, flanked by federal agents. He didn't resist. Every reporter shouted his name, demanding statements. "Mr. Cole, did you know about the fraud? Are you cooperating with the investigation?" Ethan said nothing. His eyes found Clara's across the crowd, calm, steady, forgiving. She nodded once. He nodded back. Inside the courtroom, the charges echoed like a funeral bell. Corporate negligence, falsified records, insider manipulation. Ethan pled guilty to oversight but provided full testimony against Nathan Greer and the board members involved. The judge listened, stone-faced. "You've lost everything, Mr. Cole," she said, "but you've also helped bring justice. I hope you understand what that means." He looked down, his voice low. "I do, Your Honor. For the first time in my life, I actually do." Outside, reporters swarmed Clara. "You're the waitress who exposed Cole Industries," one said, shoving a microphone toward her. "How does it feel?" Clara blinked under bright lights, choosing her words carefully. "It's not about revenge," she said. "It's about rebuilding what people like them try to take from others. Sometimes doing the right thing means standing alone, even when no one believes you can." That night, she returned to the diner. The windows were boarded up, the walls still scarred from the attack. But the place stood firm, unbroken. She ran her hand along the counter, the same one where her mother had once served coffee, where Ethan had handed her an eviction notice. Now, that same counter symbolized survival. In the corner, she placed a small frame with her mother's photo beside a note that read, "You were right, Mom. Home isn't something you sell, it's something you defend." Meanwhile, in his cell, Ethan received a letter. No signature, just a familiar, looping handwriting. "You did the right thing. That's all my mother ever wanted for you. When you get out, there'll be coffee waiting. See." He folded the paper slowly, a faint smile tugging at his lips. For the first time in decades, Ethan Cole slept without regret. Months passed. The storm that had torn through both their lives slowly gave way to calm. The diner reopened, its windows repaired, its walls freshly painted. A new sign hung above the door, "The Willow House, Home of Second Chances." Clara stood outside, apron on, watching the first customers trickle in. The neighborhood had changed, too, more humble, more hopeful. People now called her the woman who stood up to the millionaires. But Clara knew it was never about fame. It was about doing right. Inside, the smell of coffee and fresh bread filled the air again. Photos of her mother and the community decorated the walls. There was even a small corner shelf with a simple plaque, "For those who lost everything and found themselves again." One afternoon, as the bell above the door chimed, Clara turned and froze. Ethan stood there, dressed simply, no bodyguards, no suit, just a quiet smile. "I told you I'd be back for coffee," he said. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Clara poured him a cup, the same way she always had. "So," she said with a faint smirk, "what does a disgraced real estate mogul do these days?" Ethan chuckled. "Turns out redemption doesn't pay much. But I'm helping rebuild affordable homes with the city." She nodded approvingly. "My mom would have liked that." His eyes softened. "I know. She's the reason I'm here, still trying to earn what she saw in me." They sat in the same booth where he'd once handed her an eviction notice. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. The light from the window washed over their faces. Soft, golden, forgiving. "You rebuilt this place," Ethan said quietly. "No," Claire replied, smiling. "We did. You tore it down so it could finally be built right." He looked at her then, not with guilt but gratitude. In that small, ordinary moment, both of them understood what true healing looked like. As the sun dipped below the skyline, Clara stepped outside to lock up. The streets glowed under the amber light, laughter echoing from nearby shops. She looked up at the sign once more and whispered, "We made it, Mom." Behind her, Ethan stood silently, holding 2 cups of coffee. He handed her one. "For new beginnings?" She smiled. "For second chances." They raised their cups, the steam curling into the twilight. Two souls who had lost everything and found home.